We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to jump right in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one of my files from a book that I'm working on at the moment. And I'm going to show you how I use plot templates and how those work for me. And I'm going to show you a few different ways to access those and all kinds of stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get started. You should be able to see my Plottr screen now, which is the actual thing plot that I'm working on. So I'm going to collapse this down so you can see that a little better and you can see where I'm at. So I've started working on this book. I've got quite a few things outlined and planned. I've got a few different plot lines. I've got a main plot, a timeline, clues, and then what I actually wrote. Let me show you first of all how I start with one of these things. So when I initially start a new novel in this series, I will start with a template. Now, in this particular case, I'm using the 12-step mystery formula. This is a novella. It's an interstitial between my novels. So I'm going to start with the 12-step mystery formula. Now, you can start with any of these that you would like. And you can see when you hover over them and click on them, you can see what fits where. Okay, so you can see that this is going to have 12 different scene cards. It's going to have 12 different beats, and it's going to have basically a couple of different plot lines. Okay, so as you go through these, let's say you're writing an action adventure, you're writing a thriller, something along that line, you can see that you're going to have one plot line, you're going to have 18 different scene cards, 18 different beats. Now there's simpler, like the Freytag's pyramid. In this case, I only need to know 7 things about my plot to get started. And we can talk about those a little bit as we go forward and as we get to a question time too. Now, what plot templates are, let me show you exactly what they are. So when I choose this one, now I've got a plot template here. All a plot template is a set of instructions that gives you an idea of where things should potentially fit in your manuscript. So in this case, we have a mystery. We open this up and we see this is the beginning of Act 1. Okay. Now, and this is the very beginning of the book. This is the opening scene of the mystery. So we give you a little bit of an idea of a taste of what is actually supposed to be happening at this point. Usually a mystery opens with a vivid, dramatic event that transports the reader to the time and place of the crime. Okay. So we're going to start with where the crime's happening, what is happening around it. Usually with a mystery, I'm actually going to start with a crime. I'm going to start with a crime that's going to set up what the actual mystery is going to be. So whether that's a murder, whether that's a heist, something along that line. Okay. Now we have a bunch of notes here, a bunch of ideas to consider. Now, all this means is these are things to consider. You don't have to do this. This isn't a rigid set of railroad tracks that you have to follow exactly. We also have some notes. Okay. Now, one of the notes that's really important in this case is that the mystery template, the events of later chapters depend on occurrences in early chapters. So you usually need to review the entire template before you begin your story. This is true of almost any story. Now at the bottom, we have a breakdown. The breakdown gives you a percentage. Now, the main thing I tell people about these percentages is don't get hung up on the percentage. The percentage is just that. It's a general guideline. So don't do math. If this is a 70,000 word mystery, don't say the disclose the mystery should take up approximately the first 10% of the story. So when I get to 7,000 words exactly, I have to move on. No, you can, if you're in the general vicinity of that percentage, you can do that. Now, there's 2 ways to use these templates. One of them is to come up here and add your story above this line. And I'm going to show you. So you're going to add your details above this line. Okay. Now, usually I don't do that, and I'm going to show you why in just a second here. Usually what I do is I immediately create a plot line here that is my main plot line. And in this case, because there is a subplot, I'm also going to create a subplot line. Okay. Now, I'm going to put my details in a card here. Murder happens. Now, why do I do it here? And then I'm going to add a description. Now, why do I do it this way? The reason is if I get partway through this particular novel and the planning process, and I decide maybe I want to use a different template, I actually can. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. So if I have my details written in here, I'm going to have to copy and paste them out of here into a new template. So instead of doing that, I start a separate plot line. Now you can do this whatever way you want. I would then add details here, incident of the subplot. Okay, and I would add the different cards here, and I'm actually going to show you in an actual book how I've actually done this. Okay, so I'm going to start with a template of some sort. Now there are there are a bunch of different templates that you can start with. So if I come down here and I say this, maybe this isn't a mystery, maybe this is actually more of an action adventure. Instead here, then I can use a template. So I can add a second template. So let's say I go to here to the action adventure, or maybe we'll use the hero's journey because it's also got 12 different scene cards and 12 different beats. And so it should line up pretty exactly. So I say, okay, maybe this is a hero's journey instead. And I can look at my cards that I've planned and see what matches up better. And so I can change templates in the middle if this is something that I want to do. Okay. So everybody got that in parts? Okay. Now I use beats across the top here. Now, all a beat means is a beat is a change in the story. So a beat is where something happens, it's an event, sometimes it's a scene, sometimes it's a part of a scene, and then a shift or a change happens in the story. Now, you don't have to use beats here. You can use something, this just happens to be the way I write, but you can change this to scene if you want, especially in the planning process, or you can even change it to chapter, okay? But a beat is just a holistic part of the story that happens before another change happens. So sometimes in a mystery especially, you will actually have a couple of different beats in a chapter. Okay, so this is a part of that. Okay, but yes, you can use multiple plot templates. So let me show you what this looks like when I've actually added it to a book that I'm working on. So I'm working on an interstitial, which is a novella. Okay, so what I actually would have here is I would have the 12-step mystery formula here down at the bottom. Now, what I've done with this particular story is I actually removed this. And you notice that it shifted. The reason it shifted is the prologue is not the revelation of the mystery. The revelation of the mystery actually happens in this case in scene number 2. So what I would actually should do is come up here and put prologue instead, and that'll shift my scenes. Okay, but you notice that the template already figured out a prologue, not the same. So I'm going to start in the second part here. Okay, so we have the disclosure of the mystery. Now, what I've done here is there's two different parts. The main plot is my planning part. This is what I plan to write. Now, sometimes this is a really simple thing. The part I plan to write in the prologue is that a man buys a gun and a guitar, and nobody knows exactly why he bought a gun and a guitar, but he buys a gun and a guitar. Then I move on to the first part of the mystery, and I reveal that there has been a murder. Okay. So Tom, who's one of the main characters, get a phone call about Jerry's father and the events at Bakes for Bells. So if I look down here at the disclose the mystery, I'm actually fulfilling this part of it. I'm opening with a vivid and dramatic event of a man getting a call about a murder. It transports the reader to where the murder happened, and it also introduces our characters and a lot of emotion in this particular case around those characters. Okay, so we've opened the story with a dire situation. So we've satisfied this right here. Now, but the thing is that so as I go through the planning process, okay, I go through the call and I notice that the call also is what sets the sleuth on the path. He gets the call from a client, he goes to meet him, and something bad happens. And that's immediately when our detective becomes a part of the story. Okay. So this is what I would do for a mystery. I start with a 12-step mystery formula. I start planning. We're going to come back to this in a second because I'm going to pop out to the project and show you what it's like to basically start from scratch. So if you were going to start a brand new file, you would create from a template here. And you would start a brand new file. This means you're starting a brand new series. This is not an established series like the one that I'm working in. This is a brand new series. Okay. Now, no matter what your genre, you can come down and find a plot that will work for you. So let's say we're creating a romance. Now, there's a couple of different things that I immediately see for romance. I see that there is a romance beat sheet, and then I see the well-known romancing the beat, and then I see the 7 romantic comedy beats. So I can quickly decide what is it exactly that I plan to write, okay? And I can create from a template brand new exactly what I plan to write. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this as well. So you can choose to start with a template, or you can choose to create a brand new blank project. And just for ease of doing that, I'm going to create a brand new blank project here, and I'm going to call this Romance the Beat because that's what I think I'm going to use. Okay, so I save and open that. So I start with a brand new blank file with romance. Now I can come in and use a couple of different templates. So I can come down to my starter templates. You notice I've got a bunch that I've created myself, and we'll about that in a minute. And I talk about the romance beat sheet. And so I can pop that in there first and go, okay, does this resonate with my story? Now, you can do this at any point in the planning process. Sometimes I will use this as my idea timeline, and I will just put a bunch of ideas in here in whatever order that they come to me. Okay. And then I will later look at this template and determine where they fit. Maybe this idea is the inciting incident and this one needs to go down here, right? So I can look at the template and see what exactly it is that I'm looking at. Where am I with this? Is this the end of the beginning? Where does this idea fit into my story? So you're starting from scratch, you got a brand new file, and you have a brand new whatever genre you happen to be working, okay? Another one that you could do, let's do this really quick, is you could come down also and you could say, this is a comedy, okay? But the other thing you could do is just because it's a romance doesn't mean you have to use one of these romance beat sheets. Maybe it's an action adventure romance. Maybe you prefer using something like the 6-stage plot structure, which actually works really well for romances. You can use anything that you want. And so you can dump in different timelines based on what exactly it is that you're doing. As you go through these timelines, now one of the things I want to point out to these is first of all, the plot templates are valuable because they give you a start, an idea of what should be happening and how to establish the pace in your story. Okay. So they're valuable in that realm. And if they give you an idea, this should be happening in this story. This is about the percentage part. The hook should occur around the 10% mark. Again, don't do math. Just if you're close to the 10% mark, you're good to go. Okay. But so don't worry about that. It makes up the first 25% of the story in Act One. This should happen right around the 10% mark. It gives you an idea of the pacing and what should be happening in your book. Now, what the plot templates are not is most of these will have an origin somewhere. Romancing the Beat, for instance. There are books and blogs and courses that talk about romancing the beat. If you want to dive really deep into a template because that one really resonates with you, there are all kinds of resources that you can use to learn more about that template. Okay, but templates are valuable because of pacing. It also helps you prevent plot holes. So, for example, let's go back and we'll look at an actual book that's done and we'll look at the outline section. Now, for this particular one, it's a longer novel. I used the sleuth's journey. There are a couple of different plot lines. Okay. So one of them is a first person confession. So I needed to make sure that this plot line all hung together, even if the other part of the story was not there. So both stories had their own template and their own plot line. But because of using those templates, I can now look at these and make sure there are no plot holes before I start the writing process, during the writing process when I've written something that just went totally off the rails, or in the revision process to make sure to check my work and make sure that I've completed everything. Okay? So basically your plot lines, your templates can help you in outlining your book to make sure that you're hitting all of the beats that you're supposed to. It can also help you understand the timing, the pacing of your story. It can also help you understand the various parts of your story. What is the inciting incident? If you do this little trick right here, up at the top, you can see beginning, middle, and end. The middle of your story should be right around the midpoint of the story. If it's not, that there's probably something wrong because you can see that this is a 12 beat formula, plot formula, but because I've expanded it out to 15. So I've moved things around to fit my story because not every scene is going to happen in exactly the same pace as what you have in the template. Okay. So this is how they're useful in helping you through the outlining process. And you can come over here and check your work. I can come over and filter by plot line and see my main plot and make sure that I read through this and make sure everything makes sense with the 12-step mystery formula. So I could actually put these two together and filter by both, and I could look and see prologue, scene one unusual. Does scene one disclose the mystery? Yes, yes, it does. It also does a couple of other things. Scene two, the call. Does the call set the sleuth on the path? And I can see, yes, it does. So it's helped me through the outlining process. So they're valuable in the planning process, they're valuable in the outlining process, and they can also be valuable during the writing process to make sure that you're staying on track. Okay. So you can use both this timeline view and the outline view to basically check your work. Is this working? Is this story set up correctly? It gives your outline a backbone, it gives it organization so that you're sure you're on the right track while you're in the writing process. Now, once you've done writing, so as I go through the writing process, I'm going to reveal a little bit of my process here. This main plot this is what I plan to write. Now, I know it probably doesn't happen to any of you, but for me, when I write something different than what I planned. Okay. So sometimes it doesn't turn out exactly the same way that I planned. So what I do when I come down here, so these scenes right here are already written in this book, these ones in the blue, and I color them blue for a reason. So what I do is I come in here and I write a summary of what I actually wrote. So my original was the man buys a gun and a guitar. Here I've added that his name is Martin and we remain unsure of his connection to the story and why he bought this guitar. Now, you notice over here we have the characters. We have the character of Martin and we have the pawn shop, right? And we have what I actually wrote. I've colored it blue because this indicates to me that I've actually written it. When I'm in the editing process, I will turn it yellow. That will mean that I'm editing that chapter or that part of the story. When I'm done editing, I will turn it green. So during the revision process, it goes through all of those different colors. Okay, but for now, I'm going to leave it blue because I know this is where I'm at. So now I've written what I've it's summarized what I actually wrote. So now I can come here and go, what I actually wrote is this. And then I can say, does that still line up with disclosing the mystery? Yes, it does, because what I wrote was very close to what I actually planned to write, right? But what you're doing is you're coming through and checking your work, because how many times have you been writing and in here I write the bonus scene is what I'm going to call it. And this is where my muse went off and I took a left turn and I wrote something that wasn't in my original plan. What I have to determine is if this bonus scene actually still lines up with this, or if I need to just delete that scene. Then I'm not going through the process of editing that scene without and editing commas and grammar and punctuation and things in a scene that I actually don't need. So I can say, hey, either that scene is necessary, or maybe that scene actually belongs over here, or maybe it belongs somewhere else in the story. But this is just a scene that I wrote when I was writing that day that may or may not belong in the story and may or may not belong where it is. Okay. So I can move that around, or I can come to the point and say, you know what, this was just me telling myself part of the story that the reader doesn't need to know, and I can just delete it and get rid of it, right? And that way I can make sure that I stay on track. Okay. Everybody got that part of it? So this is one way to revise. Now, if we go back to the project where you have started, let's say you've started this brand new part. Let's say you're a discovery writer. If you're a discovery writer, this can be what you wrote on the various days that you did your writing. So maybe this isn't what you planned. Maybe instead this is what I wrote. So if you're a discovery writer, you can still use templates because you're going to come back and say, okay, I think I wrote a romance and it matches romance the beat sheet. And so you're what this is what I wrote on whatever date. And you can put July 1st or whatever date you want. Or you don't have to put the date, but sometimes I'll put the date in. This is what I wrote July 1st, or I'll put a summary in the top of there, right? And now I can look at, did I actually write the opening image and hook on that day? Or does this belong over here and do I still need to write? So I can put in here, need to write. And then over here, maybe I have extra scene. And I can do the exact same thing that I was doing if I'm a plotter and I plotted and then I plot out what I actually wrote. Instead of it as a discovery writer, I'm plotting out what I actually wrote. I'm putting that all, I'm summarizing it on a plot line as I write. And then I'm using these templates to check my work. Is this actually pinch point one? Or is this a different scene entirely? Maybe this is an entirely different scene and it doesn't belong there at all, or maybe it doesn't belong in the book at all. But you can determine that by these different methods of using a template basically to go back and check your work as you go, or you can wait until you've completed the entire first draft and then go back and do it that way. Excellent. Excellent, guys. Let me ask you guys if you have, before we go any further, if you guys have any questions about doing this, if there's anything I can help you with, it would be really helpful. Let's see. Can you save the bonus seat for use in a different book? Oh, yes. Let me show you this. This is actually really cool. So I didn't show you this before, but sometimes I will also do this. I will create a book over here and I will actually call it Idea Book 1. Now, so let's say I've come into here and I've written this bonus scene here, right? And I'm not sure where this fits, but I want to save it because I think it was a good scene, right? And that I might use it somewhere else. Here is the beauty of the ability we have to move scenes now. I can move them between books. So I go, this doesn't belong in Baker Street, but maybe it'll belong in Idea Book 1. And so now it's disappeared. If I go back out to the project and Idea Book 1, there's my bonus scene that I threw over there, right? Now, I may never use that. It may never come into play, but I may be writing through one of the other books and go, "Oh, that scene I had when I was writing Baker Street would fit really well here." And I can save it and go back. And then if I say, "Oh, this fits actually in the romance, the beat," I can just change where it is, and if I go back to the project, go back to Romance the Beat, oh, look at there. There's my bonus theme right there. And now I can move that to maybe where exactly it works. Does that help answer that question? I hope. That is cool. Can you move it to, oh, yes. Okay, let me show you that as well. I didn't show you that because a lot of times what I will do, so let's say you have that second template here, or here, let's try this with, let's say I've got a second template here and I decide I'm going to use, let's say I'm going to use the romantic comedy beats. Okay, and I drop that there and I decide this actually does fit better. Then I can move it. You can just move the plot line. You see it as it kind of highlights there. It allows you to move it up. Sometimes what I will do when I'm initially in the planning process is I will put the beats up at the top, the template up at the top, then create mine underneath. And then when I'm done with the template, before I export to Scrivener or wherever I'm going to export when I write, I can either delete these or I can go under this advanced export. This is something I should show you too while we're at it. And I can choose what I want to export. And so I can say, I just want to write, I just want to export what I wrote. I don't want to export these templates because I don't need those in Scrivener when I'm in the writing process or in Word. I really just need this main plot line that I'm going to write from that has my writing prompts on it. Okay. So then I choose what I export. Okay. So you can come down here and choose different plot lines, and that way you don't have to export you can leave yours in place, but you don't have to export them to Scrivener. So they're not in your way, or to Word, so they're not in your way. Okay. Oh, can we talk about series? Okay. So let me talk about series and how that works, because this is actually, this file I've got up is actually a great example. It was before I added all the extra books, but I'll show you this thing here. So when you come under this drop down menu here, you have your series view. Okay. Now, in this series view, you can have all of your books. Now, for me, what I have here is, let's say I'm going to have, this is going to be the overall series is going to be a hero's journey, because in this particular case, it is. Now, beat one, in this case, what's going to happen is this is going to be here. This is actually how this happens. So this is the second book in the series. So these two things, the call to adventure and the refusal to call, actually happen in book one. Then teaching moments happens here. Then actually in the overall series, then what happens here is compelled. Things happen here. So I have a 7-book series planned here. So basically, then compelled happens here. But the final one, the return with the elixir, the resurrection and return with the elixir, and this final one is titled Butchers. And this is where the series resolves. And there's a couple other books in here as well. There is 70, and there's another book in here as well. So I planned out the overall series arc to be a hero's journey. Okay. So I've added a plot template to that as well. And under here, I can go and, whoops, I didn't want to do that. I can summarize the book and how it satisfies the template. Does that make sense? Is that helpful for you for that particular aspect of it? So that's how we do the series. No, there's not a way to visually stretch the boxes to cover the multiple boxes below. That's actually a great suggestion. You should put that on we have a roadmap with suggestions. That would be it'd be great to be able to do boxes that covered more than one thing. I'm not sure how they would do that. I'll just tell you guys, I'm a guy that writes words, not code. So I'm not sure exactly how to do the code things. Now, yes, you can add your own template. So let me explain how that works as well, because this is actually a really cool thing. So let's say I've come into a project. I'm going to use this untitled one. Oh, nope, I'm not going to use that one. That one's too cluttered. I'm going to use this romance the beat one. And let's say I've taken the romancing the beat, or the 7 comedy beats, and I've actually broken them out and I've added a scene here. And I'll actually show you one of mine here in a second and we can see. And then I've added, so I want to add more detail. Then what I can do is I can come up here and hit save as template. And I'm not going to save it because I already have a bunch of other templates, but you can name it whatever you want to name it. So this is Romance the Beat or Romantic Comedy Expanded. Let's say we're going to call that. Now, if you have a source link for like a book or something you got this from, you can add this here. You can also add a description, my romantic comedy, something like that. Okay. And then you can hit save. Now, if I hit save, I'm going to add add a template to I have a ton of templates, right? But I can go into there. Let me go here and I'll start with a template. So I've added another bunch of different templates. So I added the Sleuth's Journey, which is the one that's now in the starter templates. But let's say I also added this Save the Cat that I made. Okay. We don't have a Save the Cat template, but we can make Save the Cat templates. And I did a video on YouTube that shows you how to do this. So let's say I pull that up in this particular book, then look at what I've got here is I've got my own version of Save the Cat, right? I actually have a few different versions of Save the Cat, but this happens to be this particular one. So I've got the different levels, I've got the percentages, I've got the main plot template, and I've got a B story template for Save the Cat. Now this is one that I made, and then I just went up here and saved it as a template, and I put STC Troy TL to save my own template. So you notice that this is in here instead of all the bullet points that the other ones have, is I just have a really simple statement about what the opening image is. This is the first beat of Act One, serves as a before snapshot, that type of a thing. So what I've done is I've made this template. Now it's useful to me. Now you may say, that's not enough detail with the Save the Cat template, and I want to make a more detailed one. You can do that, or you can just add, you could take this one, add details to it, and make your own that makes it so that it works for you and for your stories. Okay, but the basic principle is I can make my own template and I can do anything I want with it to make it fit my stories. So if I'm writing a series, I can make a template that's for that series, and then that has the different plot lines that I want in that series, and then I can use that myself, and I can use it over and over again, book after book. Okay. Now, is there a way to share templates with other users? Yes. So we have a community template area where you can share things like that. Let me see. I can grab the link for that for you in a couple of minutes here and I'll drop it in the chat. So there's a community template area on our website. I can grab the link here in a minute, but you can also go find it on our website. Okay. And then you can share your templates with other people and they can share theirs with you. So you can sometimes find some templates there that you like, hey, there's one for organizing your marketing that's there. Okay. Now there is a public repository. How many templates per timeline can we have? So each one is a separate plot line, but you can have as many as you want. You can literally, so I've seen people that have put 50 different plot lines down here, right? So you could go down here and use templates and you could say, I want 12-step mystery, and then I want an action adventure or a cozy mystery. And you could just keep adding different templates to your heart's content. Now, I wouldn't do that myself. And the reason is very quickly, you can see how rapidly confusing that could get. Now I've got a whole bunch of things and I'm not sure what I'm doing. Usually I have one or two. I start with one or two. Sometimes I switch in the middle to a different one and then I delete the ones that I'm not using. And sometimes I will have one for the primary plot, one for the secondary plot, but usually I don't have more than a couple. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. 50. Something like that. Is there a way to hide a plot line? Not yet. Yeah, 50 would be very confusing. Not yet, but there will be a way to hide a plot line. That's one of the features we're working on. We're also looking on the ability to pin a plot line. So you could pin let's say you could pin your plot structure at the top, and then you could scroll down, up and down, and that plot line would stay in place. That's coming. It's a coming feature. It's not quite there yet, but we do know that people want that type of a thing. Okay. Any other questions? Trying to scroll back through. Somebody asked if there's an area on Plottr that gives directions on usage. There are a ton of videos that we have on our YouTube channel that give instruction on usage, and then we also have a series of author interviews. And those author interviews, we talk to authors about how they use Plottr. And so you can usually get some really great ideas from those people because they've got some, let's see. Okay, if you can't add a second template when you're trying to add a second line in timeline, what that means is you may have the beta act structure on. So you can't add those templates if you have the beta of the act structure on. The act structure is coming out of beta soon. But if you have the beta act structure on, you can't add the templates like that. So you just need to turn it yeah, you need to turn it off in order to do that. That's why I don't have it on right now. I love the act structure and I can't wait till it comes out of beta. But yeah, don't yeah. It, you can't do that. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I've actually broken a template before. I'm an amazing guy. I can break anything. But anyway, and somebody said I broke the limit of cards. Wow, that's pretty amazing. I haven't broken the limits yet, but I have pushed them. I can tell you that for sure. Now, so when you have an idea for a story, do you go to Plottr and write the ideas and develop characters? Yes. Now, for me personally, usually depending on what I'm doing, like in this case, I'm in a series, right? So I'm starting with characters because I already know who the characters are. But I will go and just write down ideas. I will write down ideas in my idea plot line, and then I will move them to put them in order. So I have an unusual process. Maybe it's not terribly unusual, but like in this particular case, let's go to a different book and the one that I was talking about, and I will put ideas like this. I will put the ideas in here and then I will move it around to where it actually belongs. So there are times when I will just stack up a bunch of ideas. Idea 4, whatever, idea 6, whatever, and then I will just stack up a bunch of them where I think they might go, and then I will move them around later. And sometimes this is another thing that you can do. Let's say I had idea 10 over here, and I decide this doesn't work for this book, but I do want to save it. Remember, I can throw it in my idea book, and it goes away. It goes in my idea book. I might use it later. I'm just not going to use it for this particular story. Does that make sense? Okay, amazing. Okay, is adding templates a pro only feature? No, adding templates is a feature you can do in any of the versions. Desktop version, one device, three device, whatever. And oh, Joy said she's been capturing ideas as notes and not related to any beats. A lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. I just happen to do it this way because I don't know why I happen to do it this way. It just works better for me. It works better for my brain. So it works differently for other people. He asked, do people write their book in Plottr? Julie, no, for the most part, people do not. In theory, you could, but I'm not sure what that export would look like. So for the most part, people write in a different software. I write in Scrivener and I have Plottr open on a different screen while I'm working in Scrivener. And Sally, if you get an error or if you have any other kind of tech errors when you're trying to use templates, that is a time to contact support at plottr.com and they can help you figure out what's going. If you have any kind of those technical issues, yeah, I'm not the guy to diagnose those. I'm a word writer, not a code writer, so what I'm doing. Somebody writes in Living Writer. There's all kinds of programs. Most of them you can export to Word. And then most other writing programs, you can import a Word document. Okay, so regardless of what you use, you can either use the direct integration with Scrivener. I do it with Scrivener for a number of different reasons. But you can export to Word or Scrivener. Okay, and can you export using the app? I think so. That's a good question. Generally, I export from desktop, so I'm not positive, but I think that you can. And there is not a Pro Writing Aid add-on. Now, the way you can do that, though, is if you do have the Pro and the web version, if you have a grammar add-on in your browser, it will work in Plottr. So if you have Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid installed as a browser extension, it will work. It will check your grammar in and spelling in Plottr, in the online version of Plottr. So there's not a direct Pro Writing Aid add-on. I use Pro Writing Aid. I use it in Word, and I use another program called Linguix. If I bought the Windows version but have switched computers, do I need to rebuy? No. If you switch computers, you can basically just deactivate the license on one computer and reactivate it on the new one. If you have trouble doing that's another thing to contact support about. They can help you walk through that process. Okay. Can you use Plottr to create a story Bible? Oh, you betcha. And let's just take a look at that really quick. Story Bible. You notice that this is characters by book. Now, this isn't showing all the books I've just added to this because I don't have any characters in those books. So you can look at the characters, all of the characters in your series. Okay, this can be really helpful to make sure you don't repeat names. I have one series that has 25 books planned, 16 of them are done. And there's going to be a total of 50 in that series, but I've planned 25 of them already. It's easy to rename. I got 3 Marys, I got 2 Phils, all that kind of stuff. So I can look here and make sure I don't repeat names. Okay. But then you can look at the characters specifically by book. So this is only the characters that are in teaching moments. Okay. These are only the characters that are going to be in 70. These are only the characters that are in Baker Street. So I can either look at the whole thing or I can look at just the characters from of the book that I'm working on. Okay. So that's my character series Bible. Same thing with places. Places, we don't have those different tabs for the different books, but you can filter by the book. So I can filter just by scenes that are in teaching moments and go, okay, these are all important scenes in that particular book. So while I'm working on teaching moments, I just come up here and filter by just the scenes that are in that book. But I can look at all of them that are in the entire series if I want to. All the ones I've created in here for the series. Same thing with notes. You can tag them by book. So you could filter by just book. Okay. So I can say, I've got a few notes and this was like some research I did about horse theft and some interesting stuff like that, and some other notes that I left for myself. Okay. So that's your series Bible. So yes, absolutely. You can create a series Bible in Plottr, and I do it all the time. So yeah, yeah, Scrivener can be confusing and overwhelming. I only use Scrivener for writing, and I am about to switch software potentially, and we can talk about that later. But the only reason I use Scrivener is for writing. The only reason I use it is because I've used it for years. And so I use it for a specific purpose. I don't use most of the features in Scrivener anymore. And Barb, I'm hoping to switch to Atticus if it develops the way that I want it to. So they're very close to developing it the way that I want it to. And then I may switch to Atticus from Scrivener. But yeah, there's all kinds of different programs. Richard says Ulysses, somebody else said Living Right. There are all kinds of different ones. So yeah, Stories Bible is really awesome. Okay. All righty. Okay. If there are any other questions, yeah, somebody else doesn't use Scrivener either. Check out Living Writer. There's all kinds of great programs out there to write in if you don't want to just write in Word. Final Draft for screenwriting. Yeah, if you're going to do screenwriting, Final Draft is the standard. The standard. Okay. All right. And raise your hand. Ruchama, do you have a question? You want to type that in the chat real quick? And I'll try to. Can I export files from Scrivener into Plottr to work on revision? Yep, you can. And this is the way that works. When you go to the dashboard, everybody see that? You can hit import file. You can import two ways, from Scrivener or from Snowflake Pro. Now, Scrivener does have to be in a certain format. If it's in the same format that you exported from Plottr, it works really well. The novel format works. Okay, the novel format works really well, but if you use novel with parts, it won't import properly, at least not right now. And that's one of the things we're working on for the Scrivener import to make it a little bit better. So yes, you can export files from Scrivener into you can import files from Scrivener into Plottr to work on revision. And somebody asked where I got my sweater. My wife bought me this sweater. If you're familiar with the Big Lebowski, this is the dude sweater. It's just that it's chilly in my office today. That's why it's made an appearance. But yes. Any other question? Oh, voice dictation for Plottr. That's really interesting. There, you can do that. So how does the Scrivener import show up in Plottr? The exact same way that shows up the exact same way as before you export it. So each of your scene cards that's over in the inspector, if you're familiar with Scrivener, the title shows up in Plottr, the description shows up in your scene. And I believe, Charlotte, yes, there will be a replay that should be sent to you. If you're registered for this, it should be sent to you. A link to that should be sent to you via email because we are recording. So I'm confident that will show up. Okay. Oh, and Dirk wrote a Python script that imports Scrivener into Plottr. Wow, that is actually really cool. Sometimes when I copy paste text into Plottr, it does weird things. Is this a known issue? It depends. So it depends on the program that you're copy and pasting from. Sometimes you will have what's called legacy formatting or legacy coding. Again, I don't write code, so I don't understand all of this. So if you're posting from Word, if you basically you might have some odd formatting things that don't work in Plottr. If you do in that particular case, you then try to import it as plain text instead. So try to paste it somewhere as plain text and then import it. If you continue to have issues, just let support know and they can tell you exactly like what that means outside of my like, I don't know how that all of that exactly works. And yeah, if you guys have scripts like you want to share away, get in touch with each other because that sounds like a really cool script. I'm not a Python coder, so I would have no idea what that even meant, what that looked like. But that's actually a very cool thing that you created that. I bet our development team would love to look at that as well. Any other questions that anybody has at this point? If not, we'll wrap up here. There should be a replay. Always, if you guys have questions, you can find me in the Facebook group. You can reach out to Plottr and and there are all kinds of videos and stuff, but if you have specific questions about templates, there are videos on our YouTube channel about how to create templates. There's one about how to create your own save the cat template. There's all kinds of cool things that you can find on our YouTube channel as well. So if you have additional questions, go there. If you don't get your questions answered, let me know in the Facebook group or whatever. And if you're having technical issues, like the templates aren't working for you or something like that, do be sure to reach out to support. Oh, and greetings from Germany, Paul. Wonderful of you to be here. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And yes, somebody bought Plotter Pro a couple weeks ago. Very helpful. Okay, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys being here. I hope this was really helpful for you and gave you some insights at least into how I use templates and how you can use them for planning and revision. But again, if you have any questions, be sure to reach out and let us know. Thanks everybody for joining us. And with that, hey, we'll see you next time. Appreciate you.